Because my internet definitely did cut out for a second there. So. Yeah, I never know Najugo because my internet tends to, like, most of the time it's fine. It's just frustrating because, like, constantly it will cut out for just a second, which is fine most of the time, but sometimes it messes up what I'm trying to do, and it's very frustrating. Yeah, Jackal, that one was me. Hey, MacMoose, how's it going? I let's see. Yes, I did get your submission via Discord DM. So if we don't have time for you to, or if you don't have time to pitch it yourself, I can do that for you. Or do we? I don't know. My stream software is confused. It says I have 0 viewers. So. Hey, Jaime, how's it going? Yeah, I don't know. I've never really found. Well, I guess I'm not watching on Twitch. So maybe Twitch has a better count. But my stream software always seems to give me an inaccurate count of how many people are in chat or how many people are watching. So how are we doing the pitches? Okay, so here is how I propose we do the pitches. I guess I hadn't thought it through entirely. At least, my main thought is I will jump into voice chat with whoever is currently pitching, and so that they can, talk out their ideas on stream if they would like to. They don't have to. They could just type their pitch into chat. I guess I haven't thought through how exactly I'm showing your cards, your stuff. I guess you could send. I guess everybody could send me their pitches on Discord, and I could pull them up that way, unless there's an easier way to do it. But only myself and the person currently pitching would be in voice chat at a time. More people is going to be uh, a lot more difficult to, like, it'll just take a lot longer, and so. Is there anyone who, yeah, we already have a lot of people going, like, in chat right now. So is there anyone who would like to start us off, or do we just want to chill for a bit and keep talking about the pre-release or our dislike of buying WotC products or whatever? Mars says, sorcerers pinned the ones we have currently in a thread. That's a good idea. I guess I should go look at that. Magmu says, if mine is first or second, I'll probably still be on stream. Can't voice chat, though. Got it. So then we can start with you. Oh, hey, Gunblade. Yeah, it has been a while. How you doing? I don't have any idea how many pitches there are going to be. My guess is 10, but that's just a guess. Could be fewer, could be more. I don't know. Gunblade says, I haven't paid attention to Magic the Gathering since the Multiverse set. Yeah, that'd be March of the Machine. Well, yeah, so that's been about a year, I think. So, welcome back. Officially done with MTG, now into Digimon and Weiss. Or maybe Vice. I'm never sure how to pronounce it. Mama's only been 6 months. I could be mistaken. Let's see. After Mom was Eldraine, and then Lost Caverns, and now Murders at Karlov Manor. So it was probably closer to 9 months ago. 10 months. How about that? All right, so let me... Right, Lord of the Rings buffered the releases, so almost nothing went into Standard over the summer. Yes. Yes, okay, let's start with Mike Moose's pitch. I have that at least in my messages, so I can pull that up. Zoom in a little. Okay. So I guess I'll just start by reading it out since Mech Moose is not going to be in voice chat. Mech Moose says, I also have a feeling my pitch is very convoluted. I wrote most of it and made the cards at like 1 a.m. Beautiful. I love it. Okay. So, Almora is what it's called. On an unrelated plane, an unnamed character built a powerful artifact to travel through the planes. His only issue, it did not work. After exploding, the man was pushed into Almora by his machine. The man slowly lost his mind, traveling through the entirely empty world, slowly learning just how alone he was. After many years, the man had still not aged. The powers that had trapped him in space had also trapped his body and soul in time. Finally, after an uncountable amount of years, the man managed to rebuild his machine, but the machine was never able to travel through planes. It instead connected itself to souls and dragged them into Almora, kidnapping them to do the bidding of the man, who now was known only as the Director. I mean, that's a pretty metal image. I'm gonna, that's an awesome looking villain. All right. The director kidnaps people to reenact films and movies from his memory, playing out his fantasy and bringing entertainment to the once lifeless/soulless plane of Almora. From a design standpoint, this allows us to create the set using a top-down design view with access to easily recognizable films and TV, from specific titles to general tropes and cliches. It allows us to bring fun references and jokes into our designs and card names without explicitly being universe beyond content. An easy potential first choice for mechanical design would be sagas with spins and twists on stories we all know and recognize, easy targets for flavor to fill each card. Some highly exaggerated examples might include The Lion King. Make a white creature token, put a cat creature token, put 2+1/+1 counters on target creature, and then you become the monarch. That's cool. Jaws of the Ocean Hunter. 5 mana in blue, create a 4/4 shark token. Draw 2 cards, then discard a card unless you sacrifice a shark. And put a +1 counter on target creature you control until end of turn. It can't be blocked. And The Thing. 1 red to manifest the top card of your library. Okay, cool. Up to 1 target creature gets +2/+1 and gains menace until end of turn. And then The thing deals 4 damage to a creature chosen at random. So these seem to be some very flavorful interpretations of these movies, which I love. I haven't seen Jaws, but The Lion King and The Thing are both pretty on point flavor-wise. Jaime says, I love this. I studied film, so I'd have many, many ideas for this set. Ties to Strata. While the main character / villain of the plane does not himself have interplanar travel abilities, his ability to kidnap people and creatures from across the multiverse gives us a good justification for introducing crossover characters or creatures from previous and future set locations. Our Strata 5 Planeswalkers also gives opportunity for other characters to follow the clues leading to Almora, entirely separately from the Soul Capture artifact. As the one most protective of their home, my suggestion for who of the 5 to introduce into Almora is Rain. Being blue in color identity also provides a good counter to the chaotic personality of the director, who will most likely be red. One of the things that I find very funny, this is Sorcerers, is that a lot of the pitches universally independently agreed sagas should be in the next set. Interesting. Themes and ideas. Theming colors and archetypes for the set should be quite easy, as the concept allows use of outside knowledge to help guide the path of the set's identity. Movie genres, from romance and adventure to horror and thriller. Movie tropes. Buddy cops, the bad guy is good, was it a dream the whole time? Better not be. Generations of film. Ages past with the golden age of cinema, classic black and white films from the 20s, or perhaps some classic monster flicks from the 60s, or an action-filled war film from the 80s. Creatures of the wider multiverse, mermaids and unicorns, maybe an alien invasion. So yeah, we go from movies to more focusing on the sorts of creatures that have been pulled into this world. Behind the scenes, lights, camera, action. The production and film sets from the behind the scenes can provide ample opportunity for ideas. What about the cinema or theaters these films are played at? And the truth of Almora. These actors are not here by volition. Maybe some of the people are after generations have passed and forgotten their origins. But what of the new people he brings in? Will they ever find a way to get home? Potential mechanical ideas. Sagas and enchantment matters. Clear opposite to some of our recent heavy artifact token sets. Can also allow for cards to be printed that support the enchantments we currently have, such as the recipe sagas from Chefs of Coldona. Shard tokens or a new type could increase the enchantment density of the set, allowing for more payoffs, and reducing the number of artifacts by replacing a predefined token with plenty of support already. Adventure spells. These represent characters, their stories, or adventures. Casting creatures from exile is also an apt representation of their origins from other planes. Entering the battlefield from exile can also be used in the form of flicker or impulse draw for payoffs in a variety of colors. Alternate universe cards. With characters and beings coming from all throughout the multiverse, it could be a good reasoning behind introducing the Strata list as a bonus sheet filled with reprints or new cards representing the many other planes from throughout the Strataverse. It could also add some fun gameplay variety to the draft experience, like what was seen with the historical mix of cards used in the Strixhaven bonus sheet. And our last page focuses on character ideas. We've got the director, a slightly insane, all-powerful, timeless ex-human. Using a great machine, he kidnaps people and creatures from across the multiverse to fulfill his childish whims. He is core red. Sorry, I keep... There we go. These mechanical ideas are obviously very loose suggestions. Yes, thank you. So, like, the main concept of the plane is... feels more like top-down, let's combine magic with classic stories from the real world. And then mechanical, like, these are ways that we could represent them mechanically. All right, then we got Rain, visiting Almora in search of missing / kidnapped royalty or citizens of her home. The leading man / leading lady, who could be an action hero, a femme fatale, the romantic pair from a holiday special, the lone survivor of an apocalyptic event. We got the crew, Obviously, you got prop masters, cameramen, location scouts, interns, movie icons like RoboCop. No, I guess time traveling killer robots, Terminator. Um, a young wizard invited to a school of wonder, an evil swamp monster and his pet donkey. And then rebels would be those who are kidnapped. Just how long will they follow the director's directions before they decide they want to write their own stories? And then the new generation, which would be those who were born on Almora from kidnapped parents. Okay, we got some other potential cards here. Location scout tutors up a land. Reconstruct. Oh, yeah, I see. That's the Terminator. Okay. Maybe? I don't know. Part man, part machine. Could be Inspector Gadget. Anyhow. That one is RoboCop. After I said it, I was like, I don't think the Terminator is at all man. But then I didn't want to go back to RoboCop and feel silly. But now I do. To be fair to me, I haven't actually seen RoboCop or Terminator. So, although maybe that's something I should feel more ashamed of. I don't know. It's the most famous movie quote. Okay. I apologize. I do love classic movies, but there's a lot I haven't seen because there's just a lot in general. And then the man with no name I do know as being from Westerns. I forget which ones. So watch-alongs when. I don't know. That just doesn't feel fun to me. I don't know. It would be hard for me to enjoy the movie with, like, an audience watching me. Also missed the non-movie reference card for Rain Up Above. Oh, Lost in the Tide. Yeah. I saw that, and then I was focused on reading. Okay, so. Yeah, that's Megmoose's idea. Megmoose, anything else you want to add? Anything I may have gotten wrong? You may need to remove the split. Okay. Haha. The search for the missing royalty left Rain lost upon the shores of many unknown worlds. Jaime says, I love it, and if it doesn't get the vote, I'm willing to work on it heavily with you. Maybe Rain just wants to be a part of that world. Hey. I got that reference. I do know The Little Mermaid. Okay. Well, thank you for your work, Megmoose. You did a lot more work than I did on my set, honestly. I'm just going to talk through my very basic idea, so I'm willing to move on to the next person who can put me to shame. So who would like to go next? And let me add this to our document. Just make a new tab for set pitches right now. Oh, sorry, you can't see any of that. Whoops. Well, I guess I can pull up the ones in the Discord, see where that's at. Actually, yeah, where Sorcerer's where is that? Oh, it's actually got my Discord pulled up. I don't know why I did that. Let's put that away. There we go. Discord light mode. Okay, so yeah, fun story about that. I did not try to put Discord on on light mode. I got a new phone and I installed Discord on my phone, and it was like asking me all these questions. It's like I was just literally trying to get in and talk to somebody. And it's like asking me all these questions, so I'm just like, go away, go away, go away. And it asked me if I wanted light mode or dark mode. And I was like, I don't freaking care. So I clicked one. It was light mode. But that transferred to my computer. So I haven't cared enough to go and change it back, but it was a bit of a jarring switch. Yeah, I don't know why I said fun mode. Okay, so what are you looking for again? I'm looking for. Somebody said you compiled the pitches somewhere. In weekly streams. Set pitches. Thank you. All right. Sounds like Ether said they can go next. So let me jump into the voice chat. In voice 1, and Ether, if you want to jump in, I will pull up your proposal. There we go.
Hello.
Hey, how's it going?
Pretty good. Yeah, my pitch is a lot more bare bones than the other ones.
That's fine. Yeah, mine is too. So do you want to walk us through it? Do you want me to read it, or?
Walk through it, but you should probably pull it up on stream.
All right, I have it up.
Okay. So, yeah, like the idea is that it was originally Phyrexians, but I got told that that might not be wanted in the Strataverse, so made it a mad scientist creating an army of robots instead. So yeah, so there was this mad scientist. He created an army of robots to I'm not exactly sure why, but it ended up making it convincing the five great mages, colored pie stuff, like one for each color.
Mm-hmm.
They cast a spell that consumed their life force, to cast it, that basically split the plane into five separate parts of its reality.
Okay.
So in the beginning it was like the plane was just like each person was split into five pieces, etc., etc.
Each person was split into 5 pieces.
But as time went on, the shards the dreams gradually. I call them the dreams.
Okay.
They gradually grew into their own things and became kind of like the different planes on Kaldheim.
Right. So they're different like worlds in the same plane.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
But then I don't know how long later, but the cataclysm causing the 5 mages who cast a spell could be related to the task bots on Mistveil.
Okay.
Like someone suggested that maybe it's a possibility that the mad scientist created the task bots, and then because they came from somewhere,
Right.
so that's a possibility. But yeah, so much later, Yijli was a demon who always has wanted to be a villain. She eventually discovered the corpses of the five great mages and managed to absorb the remnants of their magic. Um, and she realized that she could use that magic to unravel the spell and cause a cataclysm between the worlds for growing entertainment.
Okay.
Um, and then she started traveling between dreams. I'm not exactly sure how, um, like. So this is all backstory for the set. I haven't figured out the actual set storyline, just to be clear.
Okay.
Because I wanted to leave it more open-ended for the actual set storyline.
Got it. Okay.
So yeah, she started stirring up the inhabitants, saying that they had to prepare to defend her, like, doomsday is coming. They have to prepare to defend their homeland.
Mm-hmm.
And then whoever the hero of the story is stopped her, but like the conflux like event was still going to happen inevitably pretty quickly. So they used her because of how the magic of the five great mages worked. They used her because she absorbed the magic as a nexus to absorb to make the energy collide in a more natural and safe way,
Mm-hmm.
which then ignited her planeswalker spark.
Okay.
And she decided and then she could either be a recurring villain or have a change of heart and be recurring and be a kind of like a helper figure for the main heroes on some stories.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, my main idea was that she had a change of heart and decided to help all heroes from the shadows, but she could also be a recurring villain, or she could not have her planeswalker spark ignite, and yeah.
Okay.
And then the last little bit is, so the dreams are allied color pairs, because I thought there's never really been a plane where the five factions are the allied color pairs. I'm pretty sure.
There's Dragons of Tarkir, but that was, I don't know. The
Yeah.
implementation could be different.
Yeah, so, and this is also possibly a more enchantments-driven plane. Of course, this is top-down, so that's not necessary. I just thought maybe. And then, yeah, so I've got the Wishful Dream for Azorius, the Shadowy Dream for Dimir, the Depressing Dream for Rakdos, the Wild Dream for Gruul, and the Lively Dream for Celestia.
Okay. So, sorry, what was that?
Yeah, you go.
So what's the main concept here? Is it the story or the idea of 5 allied color worlds?
It's the story.
Okay. So just wanted to double check because the main concept is what we want to build around, and then the mechanical execution could stay the same, or we could decide to run with this and find a different mechanical implementation.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I don't care about the factions or anything. I just thought, but the world splitting into 5 dreams is a core part of the story. It doesn't matter to the story what those dreams are.
Okay.
But yeah.
Gotcha. So would all of this here be like the current story of this set, or would it be backstory and then we would come up with a story for what happens in the set?
So the idea is that the Nexus event, the conflict, usually being the nexus of the conflux-like event, is the climax of the story.
Okay. Got it.
And then all the other stuff is backstory.
All right. Yep. Sounds good.
So yeah.
Awesome. Well, let me write that down over here. Yeah, again, you guys can't see it, but 5 dreams. And cool. Anything else you want to say before we move on to the next pitch?
Nope. Thanks for doing this with the community. Like, it's a great idea.
Yeah. Well, thank you for pitching this idea, and whatever we pick, I hope that you will be on our team to make the set.
Yeah.
All right. Who would like to go next? Yeah, sorcerers. I wasn't saying that we couldn't do it because Dragons of Tarkir has. I was just trying to think of any faction sets that were allied, but yeah, there's not actually been a ton of them. Definitely, because like Ravnica, I guess, is the main place that they do 2-color faction sets, and they actually specifically don't just do allied or enemy colors on Ravnica, just because they have all 10, so they have the freedom to do something different. Oh, Mars is in the on deck. Right. I forgot I could look at that. Yeah, sure. Let me find Mars's submission in here. All right, need to zoom out a little, or there we go. All right.
Hello.
Hello, what's going on? Can you hear me?
Yes, sorry, got some stream delay transfer stuff there.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. Well, welcome. We've got your PowerPoint pulled up. It appears to be a little bit lengthy, so let's get started. So this is Lucrum, Home of the Dungeon.
Correct.
All right. Do you want to tell us about it, or do you just want me to read it off and you can clarify points? Or
Yeah, we can do it that way.
the second way?
Yes.
Got it. Okay. So, Lucrum is a top-down set based on dungeoneering, incorporating elements of role-playing and roguelike games. The heart of the plane is the massive dungeon known as Gula, which drives the plane's culture, development, and economy. So it's a metropolitan overworld with a possibility for a diverse range of sapient races, a wide array of classes to combine with the species, and you could include a multitude of cultural veneers and or influences. And then the dungeon, Gula. I see it says gluttony after. Is that like a...
That's the translation for it.
Okay, in what language?
Latin or Italian, one of the two.
Okay, nice. I guess that would be where we get the word gulag from. Okay. So that's a key feature of the plane, bigger on the inside than the outside. And it would be a broad assortment of environment types to work with, especially in the dungeon. And yeah, you could fill that dungeon with all types of fun creatures. I'm just sort of thinking like Dungeons and Dragons type stuff, like skeletons and rats and whatnot.
I have some examples later down in the listing, so we can get to that later.
Nice. Okay. The story's flexible. Setting and story can handle both humorous and serious scenarios. Options for flavor. All right. Anything else you want to say on this page?
No, just that this was pretty much inspired by conversation, I believe, in one of the threads. I think Spelly mentioned dungeoneering, and it just kind of set something off in my brain, and here's what I got.
Yeah, I think Dungeon Plane might have been my pitch for when we did Coldona, maybe. But I really
about that last time.
I really didn't flesh it out beyond that concept. Like, it was pretty very unfinished. So I'm glad to see that you are coming up with more ideas for it.
Yeah, and all this is like placeholder names, so if you want to change anything, obviously we can. So
Nice.
not bound by that.
Okay, I've played one of these games. I know Slay the Spire. I've played quite a lot of that. I
Yeah, so
don't.
here's some video game examples, some anime examples,
Mm,
or source material.
and not shown here would include things like Inscription, which I do also know. Monster Hunter. Uh,
Yeah,
made
particularly for like the bosses and stuff like that.
right. Yeah. I think we took a little bit of inspiration from that for Coldona as well, but I don't think it's too obvious. Um, okay, so yeah, lots of sort of vibes to incorporate into the dungeon. All right, the largest dungeon on Lucrum is Ilgula. No one is quite sure where it came from, but scholars agree that the structure is akin to a living organism. This is due to the dungeon's ability to change layout, spawn new monsters, and generate valuable resources. Okay. So basic lands would correspond to specific types of terrain that would be different in the overworld as in the dungeon. So
Yeah, so usually we see like two different basic lands in a set, right? So
right.
just figured exploring what that might look like on this plane.
Right. Okay. So flavorfully, a plane. We would have, if we had 10 basic lands, we would have 5 of them be the overworld, 5 be in the dungeon, and in the overworld, things would probably be very nice, like farms, rivers, gardens. Mines and marshes are less nice, but still.
They can be thriving though, so like
Yeah, absolutely. Like teaming with life and business. And then in the dungeon, we have desert. We have aquatic/arctic sort of environment, crypts, so lots of undead creatures, volcanoes, and jungle. Okay, and then
Oh, I have a typo on there. So this is the city I've named Adunata, which is like abundance.
okay,
So yeah, this is the metropolis that I kind of mentioned. It's not anywhere near the size of like Ravnica or anything,
okay,
but it's still like a major bustling city, like thriving.
got it. So it was founded around Ingluvius.
That's the old name I had for Gula.
That is what I figured the typo was, because I had no idea what this was. Okay, so it's the largest urban center on all of Lucrum, attracting adventurers from all over the plane. It's a high metropolitan city, although nowhere near the scale of Ravnica, with a diverse mixture of sapient races. Okay, so I guess to double check, this is a dungeon in the sense of like RPG games. You venture into the dungeon,
Yes.
you kill monsters, you bring back loot.
Get loot. Yep.
It's not a dungeon in the sense that it's a giant prison for people.
No.
Okay, so that was my suggestion. So this is actually much more different than my suggestion from before. So just want to clear up that potential confusion. All right. So then people would be coming. The reason that the city would have built up around the dungeon is because there's probably vast riches inside the dungeon if you're brave and skilled enough to adventure in and go get it.
Correct. Hence why it drives the city's development.
Got it. Okay. So then a few of the dungeon floors feature a boss monster and their lair. Okay, so this feels very what's it? Sword Art Online. Where they have like all the different floors, and then every so many floors there's a boss they have to kill. And let's see, so we've got example names include the Lich's Pale Chapel, the Scholar's Frozen Eyrie, the Demon's Lightless Tomb, the Dragon's Scalding Horde, and the Hydra's Verdant Maze. Okay, so I'm kind of envisioning like a cycle of, iconic creatures at rare or mythic, where each one is a boss.
Just some examples of like bosses might have these kind of naming conventions for place names and stuff.
Right. Okay, that's kind of a cool vibe. I like that. So creature types. As far as classes go, you would have a bunch of fighter types, a bunch of spellcaster types, a bunch of stealthy types, etc. So just like a bunch of classic D&D subclasses
Blender.
or classes. Yeah. And then
All the RPG tropes, all the like from various shows and anime and games. Just chuck them all in there.
okay, great. Yeah, so there's a request to turn up your volume, which I have done, so let me know if that is loud enough. Sapient races. So the idea here is that there would be a lot of them, just because there's a lot in general on most planes, and all of them would be coming here.
Everything we can find art for.
Okay, great. Yeah, so in particular, I mean, you still selected some over others. So like Azra, Jinn, Dragonkin, Dryads, Dwarves, Efreets, Elves, Humans, Merfolk, Minotaurs, Orcs, Satyrs. I skipped over Etherborn. And Anthropomorphs would be like, Fox people.
Your Leonin, Lox, Dawn, Rocks, yeah.
Got it. Okay. So just lots of options. And then character archetypes. Just a lot of suggestions for types of characters we could have. Pompous nobles, shady merchants, lone wolf type adventurers, etc. Okay, I think I'm starting to get a sense of the flavor behind the plane. Okay, so the dungeon contents would include monsters. Yep, okay, so here's what I was talking about earlier. Things like ghosts, mimics, oozes. Minotaurs are like a classic, from Greek mythology, the labyrinth and the minotaur. So,
right. Yep, that's why it's on there. But given that we have the potential for sapient minotaurs as well, I just marked it as something we might want to keep an eye on.
Right. Yeah, so I figured that was probably had something to do with why it was starred. Sea monsters, that could continue our sort of sub-theme of sea monsters that we had in Coldona. And then, so boss monsters. I feel like we would, if we were going to do this world, we would need to really capture the idea of, or capture the feel of fighting a boss in a video game. Where, like, maybe it starts out on its front face and it has, like, I don't know, a little mini game that you play. But once you complete it, it, like, transforms into something even bigger and scarier. That's just one potential execution, though. Examples include a Cyclops, obviously, like the iconics from before. Lich is a big one. And then, of course, all good dungeons have to have traps. So we could, like, return the trap mechanic from Zendikar block. Or we could find another way to implement these.
Mm-hmm.
All right, and then, of course, you also have things like treasure chests, merchants and shops, hidden passages. So, yeah, big fan of all that stuff. Let's see. So here we've got a bunch of other trope ideas, types of weapons. We've got armor, we've got tools and gear and betrayal, TPK. So I don't feel like I have to list off all of these, but these are the sorts of cards that we would want to make in abundance. Probably a lot of our common spells. Hopefully the TPK is more of a rare spell.
Board wipe.
Yeah, that honestly makes sense. I like that. Okay.
And the next is mechanical options.
Great. So convoke, cycling, equipment. Equipment definitely seems important for this vibe, because you got to gear up, make sure that you're equipped for the adventure. Kicker, scry, and surveil.
The workhorses.
Sorry, what's that?
Well, just like the workhorse mechanics for like whatever we need.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah. So yeah,
I was top it, the kind of tier of resonance for the plane. So
yeah.
Leftmost is like the generalized mechanics, and then
a lot
the
of
ones
these
that I feel like are more likely we're going to use are to the right.
I see. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, cool. Yeah, so these are just generally useful mechanics that tend to get put into a lot of sets because they're very solid.
But in retrospect, I should have put the equipment further to the right.
Oh, you're good. I was just trying to figure out why we went from that to weaker resonance. I was like, where's the very strong ideas? So here they are. Venture variant, like initiative. Level up is a big one. I like level up, and I would love to use it. And then invoke. I don't know what that is. Is that a mechanic you made up, or is that like a custom mechanic that other people have used?
Yes, I believe it is a custom sorcerer and explain it best.
Gotcha.
If I'm not mistaken, whenever you invoke, it's invoke blank.
Oh,
and then
yes.
Yeah, if you've seen the merit liege thing,
yes, I saw that a couple weeks ago.
Basically that, yeah.
Gotcha. Okay, got it. Well, that was a complex mechanic, but very interesting. So, like, I would be down for that. And then obviously, there's a lot of other like mechanics that Magic has already done that sort of evokes this feel because they've done Adventures in the Forgotten Realms. Definitely played in this flavor space as well. So, well, I guess that's more venture. But then there's also Explore, Descend, Allies. Look, I love Allies. Allies were my very first Magic deck, so I'm down for some Allies. Yes, Zendikar would also be another plane that has really captured this sort of feel. Great, so yeah, lots of mechanical options, and we would definitely want to invent one or two of our own as well.
Yes.
Cool. Anything else you want to say on this page?
Nope. I think it mostly speaks for itself. These are just like mainly returning mechanic suggestions, and we can come up with anything that we want for glue. So.
Yep, sounds good. Okay, Planeswalkers.
Okay, so I'll talk a little more for this one. So
Yeah.
I want to kind of explain my logic. So, for this, I believe a Bladeheart is the most appropriate for the nature of the plane, as like adventuring.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like the knightly, heroic energy that the Bladehearts have would be the most fitting for this. So he's the protagonist. He's our point of view walker.
Mm-hmm.
So, I built a antagonist walker to go against him, but there's a couple routes based on how we want to take the story that I didn't flesh out.
Mm-hmm.
So this is, if you can see, this is Zenai. She's a anti-dragon planeswalker. I suppose you can broaden that to anti-flyer. So she doesn't like dragons.
Okay.
This is relevant because I figure why? Of course, there needs to be a dragon in the dungeon, right?
Naturally.
So I have an elder dragon down there, and she wants to go after that dragon, and so now they're in conflict for some reason. We can work on the details for that, but she has beef with the dragon. Lerm's trying to get down there, maybe to save her.
Got it. Okay. Sounds good. So then, alternatively.
Yeah, so if you go to the next slide, if you're done with this one.
I have done so.
Similar vibe, however, here the antagonist would be Samara instead.
Mm-hmm.
She wants whatever is at the bottom of this dungeon. So here she contracts out Zenai to be her muscle to deal with said Elder Dragon. But more or less the story stays the same, with the terms of Lerm here being the leader.
Got it. Okay. And then in this route, Zenai is Samara's hired muscle, but her backstory is the same.
Yes, correct.
Yeah, got it. Okay. So now we have sort of a story and some characters.
Yeah, loose enough that we can work with, but at least the key characters are kind of like...
Yeah, seems pretty open-ended as to like what the story is. Like we can roll with it however we want.
So just some other key characters for the world.
Yeah, we got Giga Chad.
Gotta have the awesome Guildmaster. And then to the right is the Elder Dragon.
Oh, gotcha. And this just has flavor about them, not actual abilities. So
yes.
I was like, oh, this is a weirdly worded ability, an Elder Dragon. No, okay. So it's wielding the powers of fire, ice, and lightning. Despite not being a creature of the dungeon, she took up ownership of one of the deepest floors. Veteran adventurers suspect she is stopping people from getting deeper, or perhaps keeping something from getting out. So there's a question of what her motives are and whether she's
Correct.
guarding
Whether he is friend or foe.
the
Yes.
dungeon or guarding the people who are trying to go into it. Giga Chad is a former adventurer and guild master of the city of Adunata. They're very wholesome. Okay, got it.
Yeah, just the cool guildmaster trope.
Yep, got it. And then story spotlights could be something like number 1, where the party's getting together, and then they, let's see, the party faces the natural challenges in the dungeon. So yeah, they're fighting and struggling against the dungeon, trying to, get loot or whatever. And then they're interfered with by the villains. And then they have a big fight with the dragon. And then the end, which again is super open-ended based on what we decide about the dragon, the characters, etc. Sorcerer says, what if the guildmaster's Wigglytuff?
I'm okay with that.
I don't know why I dignified that question by reading it aloud, but anyhow, sorry, what were you going to say?
Yeah, no, so these 5 story spotlights are sort of the general flow for the plot, not necessarily the locking down the plot points, but kind of like this is this, then this, then this, then this, then this, and then we can work on the details of the story later.
Right. Absolutely. Although that is something that in the past I've been very when we've designed sets together, I have not focused on the story early enough because I'm just trying to sort of figure out what the archetypes are going to be, how it's all going to work together, and I get really stressed about figuring all that stuff out. So this time I think we have a better plan in place for how we're going to design the set. So hopefully we will have more time to focus on getting the story in place early on so that we can design cards that really evoke it.
Yeah, that's why I want to explore these things before we go any further.
Yeah. Great. Well, it looks like that's the last slide. So thank you very much for your pitch. I will... Oh, we got... What happened? Oh, hey! What's going on, Tessa? How are you doing?
Oh, Ray could probably go on this list too for mechanics, by the way.
Nice. Yeah, let me add this to our list of pitches. And thank you for your ideas.
Yeah, no problem.
Looks like Najugo's next in the waiting room. So we can get... I'll start pulling up that one. You are doing great. Did you just get done streaming some of your own games? Dead by Daylight or something? For those who don't know, Tessa's my very good friend who is also more of a gameplay streamer. So, more fun than what I do. Oh, sorry, Tessa's never met me. All right, let me...
Okay, then.
Right. Let me go pull up your... Hey, Najuga, how's it going?
It is going. It never do stop going.
I think I've heard that.
Probably from me even.
All right. Is your submission in that that thread?
No, I don't have any files, any documents. I just have 3 core ideas.
Great. So pure. We're just gonna talk about it. That works for me.
Yeah. My set pitch. Where did I put it? I put it somewhere. The name is Levrask, the Warping World. And it is basically a seed to use my jump strat pack, have Eldrazi's, and do fun colorless stuff. The idea is Levrask, its top down is a plane that has a thin barrier between the blind eternities that cycles with the moon, and so like Eldrazi leak into the plane more easily. And for a while now, there's been one Eldrazi that's been sort of acting in the shadows as the leader, but he's not a true Eldrazi Titan. And this is Obturia, the Twisting Mean, who was the commander of that Jumpstrat pack.
Mm-hmm.
And there's also like cults and stuff. Basically, the idea is battle for Zendikar, but with more Innistrad flavor, or Shadows over Innistrad, but without transformation. If you get my drift.
But without what?
Transforming cards.
Gotcha. Okay. Yep. Okay.
And monsters and stuff. And the one other core idea I had for this is we have two other Eldrazi adjacent things, interesting Eldrazi adjacent things in our format. We have Obturia, we have Zimantia from the Mistveil Commander precons.
Oh, gotcha.
And we have Zektala from Mistveil itself.
Right. And
the idea I had that these three different creatures were the split off pieces of one great Eldrazi Titan a long time ago. And at the climax of the plane, these three come together and recreate Zekturnia the Whale Reforged.
Okay. The Whale Reforged. Got it. Okay. Interesting. Well, I do like the sound of a new Eldrazi Titan.
Yeah. Put more Eldrazi into the format and the mythos without stepping on the canon Eldrazi toes.
Right. Okay, so we would maybe want to find some execution for that Eldrazi that feels different. Still weird, but not like the other ones.
Yeah, the mechanical power set idea I had around him is he's all about absorbing, combining, and splitting pieces of things. Like the three different pieces we have right now, Zektala splits itself into different pieces, and Zimantia absorbs lots of your opponent's deck in order to deal damage to them, and stuff like that.
Okay, gotcha. It's kind of a cool idea. So the main concept is, I guess it's top down.
Yeah.
Flavorful, the flavor being Eldrazi stuff, I guess. Well, yeah, I mean, it's more than that, but I'm trying to summarize. So then, do you have any particular suggestions for the mechanical execution?
I mean, we're probably gonna want to have Devoid in there, just to have more colorless stuff that's also colored. Other than that, no, not really. There's messing with Exile is a potential possibility, but it's really about it. Come up with it as we go.
Okay, sounds good. Well, in that case, thank you for your pitch. I will add that to the list. And I'm gonna write up a little bit of a bigger summary on all these pitches, and then put them on a list, and then people can vote for them.
Sounds good.
All right.
No Jackal.
Oh.
No one with Annihilator on.
Kind of like that. As long as the one that you have to pay is colorless.
No.
Okay.
If there's any Eldrazi mechanic we shouldn't do, it's Annihilator. The worst one.
I like that it exists, but yeah, I don't really think it's a good idea to make much more of it. All right.
It worked in World Wake as the like introduction of the Eldrazi as a thing to Magic, but it's just such a bad mechanic.
It was, pretty sure it was only in Rise of the Eldrazi.
Annihilate?
Yeah.
Or Rise of the Eldrazi in the block that World Wake was also in. Zendikar, World Wake, Rise of the Eldrazi.
Yeah. But Annihilator was only in Rise.
Yes.
Although the Eldrazi were mentioned on a single card in World Wake is sort of a tease for what was upcoming.
Yeah. All right. Well, if nobody has any questions, that's it from me.
All right, thanks. Who would like to go next? I'm sure Sorcerers has a pitch.
Yeah, I don't know why Mars and Ether are both in the waiting room. They both went already.
They're just hanging out. Or I can do mine. And is there anyone else in chat who is planning to pitch? Yeah. So for Tessa or anyone else who came with her who may not be aware, we design custom Magic sets together on stream, and right now we are taking suggestions for what our next set will be. Mirrodin says, I threw mine in the set pitches, but my voice is dying. It's short if you'd like to quickly run through it. Yeah, I can do that. All right. So this is an idea from Mirrodin. The set is Lantaris, City of the Deep. The plane is called Golden Shale. So, Lantaris Sentinel... Sorry. Lantaris, an advanced civilization deep beneath the sea, has been discovered and is under siege. Its ancient artifacts and priceless technologies are being pilfered, and the merfolk who have long lived in secrecy are now forced to defend it with their lives. So we've got Lantari Sentinel, 2/5 for 2 and a blue defender. As long as you control a permanent with a counter on it, it can attack as though it didn't have defender. Oh, there we go. A Lantari Merfolk from the Rain Jumpstrat pack. Thank goodness. I was like, I know I've seen this. I know I've played this card before, and I could not remember why. Cool. So this would be Rain's home plane. Got it. Blue Coast, the sprawling coastal city, is sparing no expense to claim the treasures deep beneath them. From rallying their navy, outfitting their fishing vessels, and enlisting the help of nearby pirates, everyone is trying to claim a piece of the treasure for themselves. Pirates in green? Think of the possibility. Since Golden Shale has no large forests, the Shale Sail are elves who have lived aboard a flotilla of ships for generations. Yeah, I had that same sort of idea for Nieldevar. The elves being actually like a seafaring race. Or like living exclusively on ships on the sea. I think we did eventually scrap that, but it is a cool idea. Rain Shoretreader has found herself in the ultimate conflict. Will she stand by Diana, daughter and second in command of the Governor Admiral, or will she side with the city that birthed her and needs her more than ever? So Broken Trust, White Enchantment. When it enters, choose an opponent secretly. Sacrifice Broken Trust and reveal the chosen player. It deals 5 damage to target creature that's attacking you, controlled by the chosen player. Interesting. So that works for a commander. I don't think that this would make much sense in like a a regular Premier set because well, you'll know which opponent. But cool design, though. Some bottom-up concepts to explore would be merfolk, artifacts, artifact creatures, and pirates. And top-down trope space would be like Atlantis, pirates, greed of humanity, and lover's quarrel. Ooh, gotcha. Serena and Diana are an item, then. Oh, sorry, I didn't. Sorcerers is saying multiplayer standard set. Yes, yeah, like it would still be a playable spell. It just wouldn't be Broken Trust. Got it. Okay. So, is there anything, Mirrodin, that you would want to add as far as, I don't know, does anyone have any questions? Do you want to add any more to your pitch that you have thought of since you wrote it up, or I don't know? Just since you're not talking in chat, I just want to make sure you get all your ideas out there. That's about it. Short and sweet. Rain Homeworld seems cool. Pirates in Atlantis are fun. Great. Just play worst enemies so you can broken trust yourself. That's the big brained plays right there. I love it. All right. Let me add this to the pitches. All right. Sorcerers, would you like to go next? Multiplayer standard set. Is there any reason that couldn't be done? I don't think so. It just isn't done. What else do we still have? Who else do we still have to pitch overall? Myself. Oh, Jackal and Pixel both want to go. We also have to do Dragazan. I mean, if nobody's going to actually pitch it... Yeah, I'm just trying to think, like, my first reaction to multiplayer standard set was like, ew, no. But, like, is there a good reason for that feeling? Or is it just because we don't do it? Like, I loved Conspiracy. Just trying to figure out how it would play. All right, well, Pixel says, I've got mine. So, let's do Pixels next. Do you want to join voice chat, or do you just want to talk in text chat? And I will pull up your proposal, because I think I saw it in this thread.
Hello.
Hey, how's it going?
It's going pretty good. Okay.
Pulling it up now. Ooh, the Apocalypse Plane.
Yes. All right. I've got just kind of a little kind of trailer intro spiel here.
All right.
So,
do you want me to read it, or do you want to read it?
No, I've got something off the PowerPoint.
Oh,
that
that's
I'm just
not
going to rattle off real quick.
Let me go back then.
All right. This world is doomed. Nobody contests this simple fact. The hordes of the damned push at the boundaries of our realm day in and day out. The seas rise up in torrential hate, and the very elements that make up our world seem to have turned against us. Unceasing, every force one can imagine comes to bring desecration to all we hold dear. One day this world will give. That is fact. But that day will not be today. Welcome to Delmond. This is the Apocalypse Plane. They are currently going through Armageddon. So,
nice. Okay.
we can now begin. So, first slide here. All right. So Delmond is a top-down set based on a plane basically doomed to die for whatever reason. There is an apocalypse event fated to occur to this plane, and it's happening now. The apocalypse has begun, and the world has sort of been turned on its head. However, not all hope has been lost. The people sort of fight indomitably, refusing to give ground to the multitude of doomsday threats assailing them. The flavor of the plane could just kind of overall could really take any number of forms, but I've sort of been imagining it as more of just like a traditional fantasy, sort of like knights and warriors and mages and that kind of stuff. And sort of at the bottom, it's like the premise does sound a little bit bleak with the whole doomed to die apocalypse thing, but I'd imagine that a pretty big theme would probably be like persevering in the face of adversity, and so more hopeful art and visuals are definitely acceptable and encouraged for it. So, all right.
All right.
So, all right, basic sort of setting. Traditional fantasy world, there was at one point 5 kingdoms, one for each color, as is sort of the usual. Once the apocalypse started ramping up, they all sort of banded together to push back the forces of destruction. There's potentially still some animosity there, but for the most part, they have recognized that the issues at hand are bigger than one kingdom and have sort of banded together. The plane also has a huge amount of just kind of latent mana and magical energy, more than a usual plane. So this is maybe the cause of the apocalypse for one reason or another, like things born out of this crazy high mana output, but it's sort of lets mages and warriors who use magic do so to a much higher degree than you usually could, and is probably the reason that the plane is still holding out for as long as it has. So, all right. Next one we're good to go to. All right. So, a pretty solid chunk of Delmond has already been destroyed. Sort of left as a barren wasteland or overrun by monsters. However, some brave souls do still venture out in attempts to gather information about the enemy or recover things left behind in decimated settlements. Not very many of them come back. It is very dangerous out there with it being the apocalypse and everything. So yeah, the 5 unified kingdoms, we can come up with a snappier name for them later, but they've sort of consolidated into one sort of general area so that they can more easily guard themselves, and the borders of that area are very much sort of under the heaviest fire from all of the disasters and such. Within this area, though, is sort of the safest place on the plane because it's got all the sort of protections and everything. People within the kingdom's walls have sort of refused to give up hope, though, despite sort of the how terrible everything seems. And the apocalypse has actually sort of spurred people to great discoveries, works of art, acts of heroism, because they've realized that the world is ending, so if they want to do something, they better do it now. Okay. Next slide we're good for.
Yep, got it.
All right. So, in terms of the actual disasters that are befalling the plane, I was thinking sort of at least one specific main doomsday event per color. We can have all kinds of different stuff that's happening, but sort of these are the major ones. Like, white's got, holy magic is faltering, the gods are either missing or dead. We're not quite sure. That's kind of open-ended, but blue's got, sea monsters and tsunamis and all that kind of stuff. Black's got the zombie apocalypse as sort of the crazy amount of magic manages to resurrect things. Red's got all the wildfires and earthquakes and stuff like that brought by fire and earth elementals. And then green has like kaiju and Godzilla going around wreaking havoc, destroying cities, all that good stuff.
Oh, the best stuff.
Yeah. All right. Okay. Then we've got so just kind of additional things. Pretty much any disaster that we can think of can be assailing Del Monde if we want it to. It doesn't really need to fit with one of the main five. Um, Fate really wants this plane dead for whatever reason. And it's going to throw everything it has at it, including but not limited to like locust and insect swarms, tornadoes, volcanoes, natural disasters, just kind of random explosions of magic and mana, freezing inhospitable winters, giants, devils, demons, and of course the four horsemen type sort of finishers.
Beautiful.
So next slide here is a little bit of story. Um, so guy on the top left there, Artos, placeholder name, whatever. He sparks when his entire company of knights are slain in a confrontation with one of those big green kaijus. Upon learning of the multiverse, he then begins sort of walking the realms, seeking a person, object, or power that could help him push back and possibly defeat Doomsday. In his travels, he happens across Vim Bladeheart. I figured that Bladeheart would work best for this plane. And as Bladehearts often do, Vim takes up this incredibly deadly quest and agrees to accompany Artos back to Del Monde and fight the apocalypse.
All right. Yeah, I think Bladeheart makes sense here.
All right. And then... All right, other potential story beats. We've got the sort of four horsemen. They don't have to be literal horsemen, just kind of some kind of big sort of apocalypse end boss kind of guys. They finally get here, and the apocalypse sort of starts ramping up to its sort of finale. The armies of the five United Kingdoms do battle with the forces of the apocalypse, potentially for one last time, and then sort of ending bit is Artos, Vim, and whatever other main characters we have challenge and slay the horsemen, although, once again, as Bladehearts often do, Vim dies in the process.
Poor guy.
So, alright. Okay, and then just got a couple possible organizations and characters. We're going to want the leaders of the kingdoms, the five previous ones, as well as the United one. The four horsemen or whatever other finishers. I think Sorcerer says that maybe just the horsemen would be best, but we'll see what we end up running with. Sort of a group of anarchists, people who use the apocalypse to justify spreading chaos and anarchy themselves, and an organization of former adventurers and current heroes who take it upon themselves to venture out into the wasteland and sort of fight back against the apocalypse rather than waiting for it to come to them.
Nice. All right.
All right. And then just got a couple little mechanical things for basic themes. This would very possibly be a graveyard set because zombies are one of the main doomsdays, and generally apocalypses are gonna mean a lot of stuff is gonna be dying. So a graveyard stuff could probably work pretty well here. And then allies maybe, since everyone's allied against the apocalypse, and so that could potentially work. And then just a list of mechanics in no particular order that I just kind of thought, oh hey, that could possibly work well in this setting.
Yeah, they all sort of fit the vibe.
Mm-hmm. And that's all I've got for my pitch. So
Awesome. Yeah, I'm really liking it. I feel like
awesome.
it's a pretty cool idea, and yeah, I mean, again, I love the inclusion of allies. So
Mm-hmm.
you guys are really preying on my vulnerabilities here.
All right. Well, I will exit VC and let someone else do their pitch then.
All right. Well, thank you very much for that idea, and I will add it to the
All right.
list.
Awesome.
All right. Let's see. So I remember somebody else mentioned they had one. Is that Jackal maybe? And Sorcerer said that theirs is really long, so they just want to go last. Jackal, is your mic up and ready? Oh, and Tuxel. Sounds good. Okay, that makes sense. I knew I hadn't seen Tuxel say anything in a while. I guess it's not been that long, but Reardon says, have we seen a Davriel or Bramblebark yet? I stepped away for a brief moment toward the beginning. Yeah, not so far. Mostly it's been, I think, 2 pitches with Rain and 2 pitches with Bladeheart. We also haven't seen a Gemma, but that's a bit more understandable because she has already had a storyline where she was the main character. Oh, hey, Jaxel. Jackal.
Hey,
Jackal. How's it going?
Just waiting for
me
my
to stop
chance
talking.
to jump in.
All right, it's your pitch here in the set pitches thread.
Yeah, it's a PDF. I can send the Google Docs version if that's easier for you.
Let me see. Nope, it looks like this is fine.
Oh, all right.
All right, so do you want to
Cool.
explain this, or do you want me to read it?
I can go through it.
Absolutely.
All right. So this is Uvarin. It's a set that I originally came up with as a enchantment theme, an enchantment themed set for one of the precons. That precon eventually changed, but I'm still gonna pitch it here. I wanted to pitch a bottom-up, like, mechanical theme since all of our sets have been top-down so far, and you know the Naya precon changed because there was no real enchantment synergy, and you know enchantments are really cool.
I agree. I was a big fan of Theros when it first came out for that reason.
Yeah, I wanted to come up with mechanics in this that kind of leaned away from how Theros did it, but but you know you'll see like Constellation is a potential thing to return. So obviously, you know, enchantment creatures are coming in. I liked the idea of saga creatures that could come in with some sort of like ETB, and then their final thing could be like an ultimate, or if it's in like white or blue, do like a flicker, or like maybe some recursion. Yeah, I mean, there's really not much to say about enchantment creatures.
Yeah,
other
I mean,
than that.
definitely a cool concept. Only potential issue with them is just they can't attack on the first turn because they don't have haste. They can't attack on the third turn because they're sacrificed. So you only get to attack with them one turn unless you like add more chapters.
Yeah, you know, and that's.
But that is a surmountable issue. Like we can
Mhm.
figure out how to deal with it.
So sagas, you know, yeah, I mean it's sagas.
Yeah.
Mask tokens. So this was something I hadn't really thought of until was it Mechmoose made the plane what is it? Plane shift um card for it with a mask
Oh,
token on it.
yeah, plane chase.
Plane chase, yes, not plane shift.
Got it. Yep.
Yeah, so it's basically the ones that Estrid makes, but this time keyworded because that one wasn't actually keyworded the way I thought it was. This would be kind of like a minor mechanic somewhere in there, so there isn't, too much protection being thrown around.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I wanted to throw in some sort of predefined enchantment token, and I thought masks were a really cool way to go. And they also inspire something coming up later.
Oh, okay. Excellent.
Yep. So next is Starcraft, which is Metalcraft, but with enchantments, essentially. This is one I was trying to find some artifact mechanics that we didn't have yet, and throw them in like the opposite direction with enchantments.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So then the next one coming up, Unmasked and Masked, sort of like a day-bound, night-bound inspired thing, but based on whether the creature is enchanted or not. So this one, Rain made a lot of flavorful sense with masks. Obviously, that's like one of her big things.
Right.
And a couple ideas. One is like, obviously you want to enchant your own creatures or permanents. And I also had an idea. I didn't whip up like a proof of concept card for it, but a creature where the backside has a like downside. So you almost want to enchant your opponent's creatures so that they are hit with like a downside.
Interesting.
Yeah, and then after this, there's a bunch of other potential mechanics that could come back. So curses, the two different types of constellation, quests like from the Zendikar block, enchantments that animate themselves, some enchantress type effects, or some sagas that flip into other types of enchantments.
Like an aura or something?
Yeah, like an aura or like
Mask.
an enchantment creature. Like from Neon Dynasty.
Got it. Okay.
Had a lot of those. Yeah, so stuff like that. Yeah, and then this top-down idea, any or all of it could change. I know Najugo suggested something in chat that I almost like a little more than something that's in here. So it's mainly, my idea is that it's mainly like tropical forest, islands, lots of greenery, but then there's a sort of like desert region where the cursed city lies. And there are powerful magic users called Starcrafters. The first Starcrafter was able to commune with basically cosmic horror entities that live in the stars. And we're able to use that power to create the vessels, and the cursed city of Ovana became their prison, essentially. So now starcrafting is seen as taboo. So centuries later, the culture of Uvarin revolves. They hold a lot of stake in the ideas behind masks and the sort of ideals they represent. So there's an annual like masquerade. That's basically like a large. I don't know if it'd be plane wide or in like the sort of central like capital, but like a large festival. And during this festival is when the villain would unleash their plan to either free the vessels in the cursed city or steal the power from it to create their own army, which Rain has to stop and find the correct evil artifact mask in a sea of a masquerade, which
Okay.
so that was the sort of story that I came up with. Again, any of that could change. That's just like the first thing that popped into my head.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay. I mean,
Yeah,
it could
so-
even we could even say that this is sort of Rain's origin story. Maybe this is where she got her mask that allows her to shapeshift.
Oh, that's interesting. I hadn't thought of that.
Yeah. I don't know. We haven't done a story with her, so we just have her because we needed a blue
Yeah.
walker. So. Okay. Yeah. I mean, I'm really liking the idea of an enchantment set. I think there's definitely enchantment creatures are a cool idea, or saga creatures.
Yeah.
Okay. Anybody have any questions about it, about the pitch, or Jackal? Do you have anything else you want to cover?
Someone mentioned something about masks saving your saga creatures.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, masks do trigger on destroyed. I mean, we could make it something else that also if it would leave the battlefield instead.
Yeah, we could make it a different type of
Then-
token, or
Yeah.
just change the ability. We might have to, call it a different name or something. But yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Sorcerer says we could add a keyword to creature sagas so they don't sack after 3.
Yeah, potentially. Oh yeah, the saga would just die after the mask did. That's right. That's a good point.
Yeah, I mean we could change it to say like and this is very specific, so it wouldn't really work on other creatures. So I don't know if that's a good solution,
Right.
but remove all counters from this creature.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
it's something to
like if it would die,
to think about.
instead remove all counters, and it doesn't die or whatever. I'm sure we could find a way to make it work in the rules. So we'll just have to, try it out and see if it's worth it.
Yep.
All right.
All right.
Thank you for that pitch. I'm pretty excited by that idea. I will add it to the list.
All right. All right, I'll drop from the call.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
Thanks. So, Uvarin enchantment set. I'll give these better descriptions later. All right, and then Tuxel, how's that pitch coming along? I guess I could go next. Let's see. Let me pull that up. Here we go. Okay, so my pitch, very basic concept. I want to do I am at least pitching a tribal themed set, where Tuxel says about 5 to 10 minutes out. Cool. So I can do mine. Maybe sorcerers can do theirs. Even if it takes a while, that'll just give Tuxel more time to complete their pitch. Basic idea here, and I should have made a better visual for this, but the idea is we do a tribal set where we have 5 factions that are a kindred set. I'm still not used to that. Thank you, Jaime. We do a kindred set. We do, basically the 10 archetypes would be 5 allied ones would be race types, and the 5 enemy ones would be class types, or vice versa. I'm not married to either idea. So, like, this is just one example. We would have Amphin in blue and black. I was trying to think of some races that haven't been used enough. So if we can find enough art for salamander people. Amphin could be blue and black. And then, if humans are white and blue, bears in white and green, Viashino in red and green, and then goblins in red and black. And then the classes could be like assassin, knight, scout, spell shaper, and noble. So then if you cross them, goblins are red, so goblins are red and black, so you would have goblins that cross over with 4 of the class types, 2 in black, noble and assassin, and 2 in red, knight and spell shaper. Mars says, so like a less convoluted Lorwyn Shadowmoor structure. So Morningtide, which is the second set in the Lorwyn block, tried to do this a bit, where it cares about races and classes, but yeah, it was a little too convoluted, and I wasn't playing back then, so I don't know for sure, but I get the sense that it didn't work out that well. So the nice thing about doing it this way, caring about both race tribal and class tribal, is you don't need to put in shapeshifters just to be cards that can go into any deck. Because if you're playing black-green, if you're playing, what is black-green? If you're playing a black-green deck, you can have cards that, I'm not describing this very well, hold on. Let me think through. Basically, the idea is that there are, like, if you're playing a Knight's deck, let's see, sorry, I'm really having trouble thinking right now. Sorcerer says, I've had an idea to do a set in this structure for a while now. I'd be on board with this concept. Black-green is noble, if I remember correctly. Yeah. So, yeah, I don't know. The basic concept is you wouldn't have to have shapeshifters to just go into any deck, because you can overlap. There we go. Cards have 2 relevant types. They have their race type and their class type. So you're not just caring about one, and if it lacks that one, it's useless to you. You don't need it. They have 2 relevant types, so it's twice as likely that a card is in your colors is going to fit into your kindred strategy. That is what I was trying to say. So, I had an idea that this could potentially be the world of Bladeheart, where potentially a great cataclysm sometime in the past wiped out most of the sapient races, and the goblins were sort of forced to step up a bit, and that's how Bladeheart became a thing. And so they have knights. They have like an order of knights that was formed by Ragna Bladeheart. But maybe they're not all knights. Maybe some of them become nobles and, look down on everyone else. Maybe some of them become assassins. The goal here, if we do go with that flavor, would be that the goblins would be much more competent than most of the goblins in Magic. And then obviously we wouldn't just need to care about a specific creature type. Like each archetype that is also a creature type would need to have its own mechanical execution. So assassins, could care about like dealing combat damage to creatures. Spell shapers obviously have their own mechanical execution, but all of these creature types are just one potential idea. Like the basic concept is the same even if you replace the creature type. So we could go with like wizards instead. I was just also trying to pick class types that hadn't been done very much lately. So yeah, we would have to come up with some mechanical execution for each archetype, but that is the basic concept. I also figured it could be like we could have a cycle, maybe even a 10-card cycle of gods, where the concept is they're not sort of going back to the Theros gods, where they're big, they're bad, they're cheap, but they're not a creature unless you control 3 of the relevant creature type. So that would be like one of the big draws to going into that creature type. So that's basically all I've got for this pitch. Doesn't have to be goblins or bears. One of the potential problems with this pitch would be like you end up with a bear assassin in white, which is just kind of... I'm not sure the flavor would come across correctly, but we could probably come up with creature types that do all fit. This is just what I happened to come up with while I was driving. So, yeah, that's my pitch. We have not done much in the way... We haven't done a Kindred set, so I think it would be a fun thing to try. And I really like the idea of that structure, and I think it would work well. Hey, Red Tower, how's it going? Andrew Drive to Work podcast. I don't think so. I might be a little too embarrassing for me. I do a lot of singing. It's not all bad though. Some of it's pretty solid. Does Andrew drive to work? Not currently, I don't. Not at the moment, but hopefully soon. All right, sorcerers. Do you want to go with your pitch? Because it sounds like Tuxel could still be a little ways off. Or even if they're getting close, we don't want to rush them. Najuga says, I have a job and I don't drive to work. Public transit. I do not live somewhere with... Well, I live near a town that has public transit, but no, I don't really have enough. I would need to drive to work. Absolutely. Okay, Tuxel says, yeah, have sorcerers pitch first.
Alrighty then, I am pitching first.
Well, hello. Do you have a document I should bring up?
I do. Which pitch do you want to go over first? Do you want to go over the server's Dragazan pitch, or do you want to go over the pitch that I actually submitted?
Let's go over your personal pitch.
Alrighty. Pinned somewhere in the set pitches chat.
I have it pulled up now.
There we go. Yahoo.
Oh my goodness, that is quite the saga. I can't read it, but that's a lot of words.
Quite the saga. You can zoom in with the zoom button to read the saga. Isn't it a great and well-designed card? Can you tell this was definitely a bottom-up pitch and definitely not top-down?
I see. It's 4 chapters and 4 modes, and each turn you pick one. I see. All right. Do you want me to read the pitch, or do you want to?
Do you want to read my fan fiction?
Hold on. How long is this?
8
pages.
5 pages. plus 3 of mechanics. It's fine. This is fine. Everything's fine.
I mean, I can read it.
If you want to read it, you can.
At first,
I'm
there
more
were only
passionate about
trees.
this lore existing in the Strativerse than I am this set getting picked. If I'm being frank, but
Okay.
I would like to see this set go in because I think it's cool.
All right. So this appears to be Bramblebark backstory. Okay. At first, there were only trees, until, in a peaceful, silent grove, bathed in the light of a full moon, a seedling sprouted, and in the light of the moon, that seedling was laced with magic. For many years it grew, rooted in the ground, until, decades later, it awoke. Blossoming with sentience, its wrinkling bark opened into eyes and a mouth, and the moss along its trunk became a beard. The tree, seeing its body of oak, leaf, moss, and thorn, called itself Bramblebark. I'm not going to read that card. Bramblebark was naive at first, and sat watchful. For a decade more, he remained rooted where he had been planted, watching the trees he considered his brethren grow alongside him. His world was silent, and so he himself remained silent. He did not know if the other trees were aware the same way he was, but they never spoke, never looked, never shifted. So neither did he. However, Bramblebark eventually grew curious. He could see the world around him continued as far as he could see, so he wished to go and see what lay beyond his grove. And so he did. He found himself able to move. He let out a mighty heave and pulled himself from the ground. His stump became a waist, and he found his roots to be his legs. His steps were slow, shambling, and unstable, like a child's. But as he traveled further, the world went further, and with each step he became steadier, stronger. For a decade further, he traveled the vast, endless world of trees. He saw millions of the wooden monoliths of life, but never once did he find one like himself. There were rivers, rocks, moss, and open grottos, but nothing that was aware, nothing like him. He was alone. And he would have been truly alone, were his world not part of a vast multiverse. Bramblebark heard footsteps, though not his own. They were lighter, quicker. They sounded unnatural. He was the only one that had made sound before, so what was making it now? He cautiously followed it and found a strange alien creature with soft, pale bark and red moss growing atop its stump. Oh, Cadwin's an alien confirmed. Bramblebark was frightened and intrigued. The creature made strange noises as it looked at him. He didn't understand what the noises meant, nor did he know what he should do in the presence of this small, strange being. Run to safety? Touch it? Stay perfectly still? He wished he could make sense of what was happening. And so he did. In an instant, Bramblebark made himself able to understand the strange creature, out of sheer magic and willpower. It had a name like he did. It called itself Cadwin. At first he was very confused and asked many questions of the little creature, and in turn the little creature seemed perplexed. To her the answers to such questions were either common knowledge or deeply unknowable, and she was surprised he asked so much. When he explained she was the first thing he had ever met that was like him, she became saddened. She explained that she came from another world and that there were countless other worlds out there. This was the only world she had seen where there was only one being aware of itself. Bramblebark felt a strange emotion within him. He had mostly felt fine in the past, but this felt bad, but not in the same way as being scared. He didn't know how to express what he felt, but one thing he did know was that he longed to no longer be alone, to be able to have others to share his world with, or to see the other worlds for himself. He asked Cadwin how to see the other worlds for himself, but she told him it was likely impossible, that very few could travel the way she could. This made Bramblebark only feel that bad feeling more, and he longed greatly to be able to see the other worlds. And so he did. Ugh. People with motivation, am I right? It was very quiet if you said something.
Oh, I haven't said anything yet. I'm just letting you read. I don't want to interrupt too much.
Okay, sounds good.
Other than my writing being a little bit I'll I'll give you a hint. After the Cadwin picture, most of this was done at about 1 a.m.
Oh, you're good. I just misunderstood that one sentence. All right. Bramblebark.
Also, Watsy, take notes. This is how you do a Calyx style spark ignition correctly. I'm definitely not cocky.
Okay. Bramblebark traveled just like Cadwin was able to. He found himself a planeswalker, and with his newly manifested abilities, he explored countless worlds. At first with Cadwin, but eventually on his own. He learned about all kinds of places, of plants, of animals, of humans, of elves, of animalic races, and of many more kinds of living beings. He learned about the land, of the forests like the one he was born from, of towering mountain ranges, vast seas, sprawling fields, bubbling bogs. He learned about emotions and the names for the way he felt. He learned what made himself different from the trees and grass and of his homeworld, of the ideas of consciousness and sapience, of what it meant to be alone. After years exploring the multiverse, Bramblebark returned home. He had been lonely when he first left home, but now he had friends in countless worlds. However, when he got back to his virtually silent, empty world of Wildbriar, he felt that feeling of loneliness return. How was it that so many other worlds had such rich, diverse lands and creatures and people, when his was just trees? He wished there was some way he could make his world as diverse and spectacular as any of the others he had seen. And so he did. From his years across the multiverse, he learned of the magic that had brought him to life, the magic of a moonlight that only shines once in a century, the magic that allowed a simple sapling to dream of becoming so much more. Though limited, Bramblebark could create things through sheer willpower, a flower, a small insect, drops of dew reminiscent of a spring morning. He hoped he could use his powers to foster new life on his simple world, and he succeeded, but far more than he could have first imagined. At first he started small, but he quickly came to realize that these simple feats were surprisingly easy for him. He created bigger things, rabbits, birds, wolves, and so on. Still, these feats proved oddly simple. As he experimented, he found his dream magic much stronger on his homeworld than it was on other planes, and so he strived to create a more complex vision for his world, starting with creating a sapient being. He crafted a human, and, though taxing, he was successful. The human called himself Triscan, and found himself with abilities similar to Bramblebark, able to sculpt the world to his liking, though for him it took considerably more effort than his creator. He mentored under Bramblebark, and Bramblebark worked to create his ideal world further. He created a diverse set of plant and animal life, raised and lowered the earth and let the streams flow into rivers, and the rivers flow into oceans. He even created more sapient beings. He created more humans for Triscan to live with, and awoke the trees so he could at long last meet those he had grown alongside for many decades. Soon he had made small populations of races of all kinds, just like he had seen across the multiverse, and these creatures, aware of themselves, were also aware of the world around them, and able to sculpt it much like Triscan. These beings went out into the world, and sculpted it in their vision, and Wildbriar began to change more and more, with growing populations of all kind, with the drive to change it for the better. There we go. I was like, this sounds too perfect. That was until the nightmares showed up. In a world of dreams, nightmares were a natural part of the world from the time of Bramblebark's first creations. They were dark, shadowy monsters, and typically hostile by nature. However, they were relatively incorporeal, easily fended off, and unable to cause much harm. That was, until recently. This features an unnerve mechanic, which says whenever one or more cards you own are put into exile from anywhere, something happens. The nightmares were becoming stronger, more corporeal, more persistent. If Bramblebark couldn't find an explanation for what was causing these nightmares, it could be a threat to his world, to all he had created, and even to himself. Making little headway himself, and fearing some sort of threat greater than even the nightmares he had seen thus far, he reached out to an old friend, Cadwin. Together they would search for a way to stop growing literal terror on the plane. And while Bramblebark was right about a greater threat on his world, neither he nor Cadwin truly knew or understood the kind of threat they were up against. What? It was Ashiok causing nightmare magic. Who could have
Whoa,
foreseen
what a
this?
big twist. Let me fix that one typo. To stop the growing. There we go.
While Wildbriar is a largely top-down idea taken from Mirrodin's Bramblebark Jumpstrat pack. Okay, so this is not story anymore. This is sorcerers talking. So do you want to explain the mechanics, or do you want me to keep going?
What would you prefer?
Does not matter to me.
I'll take over from here. This set was pretty much birthed from the Bramblebark Jumpstart pack, which, as far as I could tell, only really had the name tied to it, and a single mechanic, which was Regrowth, which is effectively an extension of Suspend. So to start with the idea for the set, the idea was to start with the Suspend Regrow combo. Suspend makes a lot of thematic sense for the world, given that time and dreams, and like given that dreams are thematically represented through exile a lot in Magic, Suspend makes that, you know, a really nice marriage, and then gives the idea of taking the time to build up these spells. I anticipated being a pretty core mechanic to the set. All that being said, Suspend is high on the storm scale and relatively complex, so there's definitely some design challenges to overcome there. But I think it would be a really fun way as like a consistency mechanic to have all of your spells be able to cast up for either a lot of mana or small mana, help with what's the word I'm looking for? Mana screw, for example. If you're low on mana, you can still suspend cards to get them later, which is really nice. As an extension of that, we've got the regrow mechanic, which that was from Mirrodin's Jumpstart pack. And basically, when a creature with regrow dies, you exile it with a number of time counters on it equal to its regrow value, and it gains suspend. So they're cyclical in nature, and they come back over and over again, with the idea being that you tweak the regrow number to kind of tweak how often they come back. So, like, common creatures might just be vanillas of, like, regrow 2, regrow 3, and then rares, you could have, you know, regrow 4 for a bigger effect, with the idea that you're maybe only getting it back once in a game, if ever. And heck, maybe there's even a mythic with regrow 10, for example. I think that regrow, given that it's nested, it has suspend nested in it, wants to be in smaller quantities than suspend. I could see like a cycle it, common, uncommon, rare, and then maybe have a few in mythic. To go alongside these two mechanics, given that like time is kind of a thematic through line for how these mechanics work, I wanted to choose sagas, since sagas are an effect over time sort of mechanic. And the way all the sagas in this set works is that instead of having defined chapter abilities, they give you a list of modes, and you choose which order you want to fire them off in, which gives them a lot of flexibility, with the idea that each of the modes is generally weaker than the kinds of modes you would see on a saga of the same cost if they were ordered. So in the end, you still end up getting more value of the saga than you paid for it if you can have it last for the entire time, but any one mode is probably only going to be worth maybe a half to 2/3 of the spell's total mana value on average.
Mm-hmm.
And then as a marrying between these, given that both sagas and suspend use counters, I came up with a new proliferate variant called Muse. And the way Muse works is you choose a number of permanents on the battlefield and cards you own in exile equal to the Muse value. And for each of them, you choose a counter on that card to either add or remove. So what that can do is it can either it accelerates your suspend cards, accelerates saga cards, proliferates +1/+1 counters, etc., etc. And that kind of creates the mechanical trio of the set: suspend, Muse, sagas. However, I also wanted to be sure that the Nightmares got represented as a faction in the set, so that's where the Unnerve mechanic comes in. Unnerve is tied into the fact that Nightmares, especially when related to Ashiok, tend to care about cards entering exile, and one of the easiest ways to get a card into exile is to suspend it. So if you suspend a card, it triggers Unnerve, and Unnerve triggers whenever one or more cards you own are put into exile from anywhere. But the cool thing about it is that you don't just have to suspend to get it. You can exile cards from your graveyard. You could exile creatures on the board. You could exile the top card of your library. And that has a lot of backward synergy with particularly Kuldona, because decomposing your cards will trigger Unnerve, which creates a lot of potential synergy into the larger standard format, which I really like.
Excellent.
And I think that's about everything I've got on this pitch.
Okay, I do have one question about Muse.
Yeah?
Have you considered that it doesn't really work great with the Saga type that you've chosen for this set?
Why wouldn't it?
Because if you remove a counter, you still only have to choose one that hasn't been
Oh,
chosen.
yes. Muse is purely meant to accelerate sagas. It's not meant to tick them back in this set.
Got it. Okay.
I have considered that, but I didn't want you to be able to repeat saga chapters over and over again every turn anyways.
Mhm.
At least not in limited.
Got it.
Like, that's probably one of the biggest concerns I have with stuff like Regrow is the cyclical nature can get repetitive, and WotC tends to avoid mechanics like that, but I wanted to remain true to Mirrodin's Jumpstart pack, and I think that Regrow is an interesting mechanic if it's costed appropriately in terms of mana cost and regrow value, so I think it could be fun to experiment with.
Great. Yeah, I mean, I think seems like a pretty cool idea for a set. I would definitely be down for something like this. So are you more focused on the mechanical implementation, or is this more of a top-down pitch?
I'm much more invested in the lore of this set than the mechanics. The mechanics could change entirely. The only mechanic I feel remotely strong about in here is the choose one sagas. Everything else was built up around, and even like them not being choose one. I would like the next strata standard set to involve sagas, because I think it's a natural, it's a deciduous card type as is, and I think a lot of the sets we've already pitched could fit sagas in pretty well, and they'll synergize well with the Kuldona stuff inherently. But like, I could see this set being bottom up enchantments. I based a lot of the mechanical design for this set outside of Regrow off of an old custom set of mine from like 2017 called Ethoria, which was Exile Matters, and I wanted to see what a more refined take on that concept would look like, and I think this is how it would be approached, but I'm not married to that mechanical idea. Everything else here is just for show.
All right. Well, thanks. If we're done with that one, then do you also want to pitch Dragazan? Because
Sure, Dragazan's a lot shorter. I just threw together. We had a voice chat like a week or two ago, and I basically just threw all of our notes from that into a little pitch document. It's still neatly put together and stuff, but a lot simpler. So Dragazan, it's our Mad Max plane. Probably, I mean, I sound like I'm bragging, but I believe it is considered one of the more popular of the Jumpstrat planes overall, but I took Wildbriar off of Jumpstrat too. Dragazan is basically a world that has been around for a very long time, and it's in a cyclical, by cyclical I mean millennium in the making cycle of building up advanced civilizations and then having them die off and get destroyed through apocalypse. Usually, the implication is that usually the apocalypse is man-made, it's their own greed or their own petty disputes that cause the downfall of civilization. And then in the wake of these downfalls, there's usually some sort of post-apocalyptic wastes, sort of similar to Pixels, but more sci-fi leaning than that. And at the time we see Dragazan, this is I'd say 100 or 200 years after a big civilization downfall, and obviously there's still steady progress effectively made on the plane. People aren't back to reinventing the wheel and using stone and stuff, but people have to scrounge for resources and kind of survive in this harsh environment that's devoid of a lot of natural resources. So what there is very scarce. This set was bottom up because the Jumpstart pack was bottom up. The original Jumpstart pack was built all around creating artifact tokens and sacrificing those, as well as discarding cards to reanimate big artifact bombs from your graveyard. And there's still an element of that there, but if we're leaning into that Mad Max aesthetic, I think the center of the set wants to be vehicle specifically. There was a lot of vehicle focus in the Mad Max pack as well, but the Mad Max pack was meant to be a cool mechanical concept. This is meant to be more of a world. And Vehicles, I think, would define and like what's the word I'm looking for? Would crap, I'm blanking on the term. They would inform, there we go. They would inform everything else about the set regardless. Like I think if one thing sticks from the set is that it's a vehicle set first and foremost. The way I see it, we want to approach this differently from Kaladesh, at least in terms of color density. Kaladesh placed all of its vehicles in the colorless, and that ended up with a lot of really powerful cards that could theoretically go on any deck. The most prominent one is Smuggler's Copter, but you also had stuff like Fleet Wheel Cruiser, what are some other ones? Sky Sovereign, etc. That were these really powerful colorless bombs that any deck could use and were bordering on what people would consider color pie breaks. One of the reasons that Copter got banned from Standard was that it was colorless. So I think the vehicles want to sit in colors. Like, we'll have some colorless vehicles, but I think putting them into colors will help balance that out a lot. I'd like to see our vehicles taking up largely non-creature slots in the file, and the way they can do that is that you can give, I didn't mock up an example, but it's something I've seen from other vehicle sets, is that you give the vehicles a spell effect on ETB. So like one vehicle I've seen in the past was a 2-mana 3/3 vehicle that did the Frostlinks effect on ETB. That was really cool at common. And then also to help out with the fact that vehicles aren't normally creatures, we came up with, in the Jumpstart pack, these fuel tokens. I think that's like 2 or 3 down on the sheet from the order. And fuel tokens are artifacts where you can tap and sack them to make the vehicle a creature until end of turn. So if you have vehicles coming in with these fuel tokens, they start acting like limited use creatures where they can actually start filling creature slots in the file if they need to, which is really nice. I think fuel tokens were the other reason the pack was so popular, because it was a novel concept, and the cool thing about fuel is that it's not just applicable to Dragazan. You could use fuel on Kaladesh, you could use fuel on Kamigawa, etc., because it's a generic term. Probably the idea that I feel second most strongly about. The other type of artifact token we have in the set was proposed by Tuxel, if I remember correctly, which was Junk. So Junk riffs on the Fallout tokens that I can't remember the name of off the top of my head. As well as being derivative of like Clues and Bloods, and you can pay 1, tap, and sacrifice a Junk to exile the top card of your library, and you can play it until end of turn. The big difference being that this has a mana cost attached to it compared to the other token, which just taps and sacks for free, but you can use Junk at instant speed, whereas you can't use the other token at instant speed. So, Junk would be effectively equivalent to cycling in terms of how it impacts the set, on top of just being a cheap artifact token, so where there is that, creating and sacrificing artifacts theme that goes across the set, Junk's a really good sack fodder, but it's also, scrap tokens. Junks are the ones from Fallout, I'm misspeaking. And I mistyped on the doc apparently as well. Let me fix that. But anyways, they would probably want to show up in all colors, even though Impulse is traditionally red. I think they could definitely have like a center in Grixis, but I feel like we'd want to use them the same way that something like Murders of Karwov Manors used Clues. As for other mechanics we came up with for the set, there were 2 like creatures counters mechanics posed. Those were Outlast and Persist, with the debate coming down to whether this set wanted to be a -1/-1 counter set, which would feel like, desperate to survive, just barely scraping by, making creatures weaker over time kind of vibe, or if we wanted it to be like Outlast, where you could use +1/+1 counters to build your creatures up, make them more hardy, and most importantly, make them more effective at crewing vehicles. Outlast is also another way to tap permanents, so if you were using Outlast in conjunction with vehicles, you could have like a tap-untap kind of theme somewhere in the set. These were mostly just ideas that were spit out. I think I'm more on board with Persist than Outlast personally, but this is definitely a big open area in terms of what could be done here. It doesn't necessarily have to be either. There could be a new mechanic. It could be Undying for all we know. Either works. And then let's see here. Fuel, Scrap, Outlast, and Persist. After that, because this set does want to involve the graveyard from a thematic standpoint, we wanted to have a graveyard mechanic in the set, at least one. And the mechanic, the idea, this one was one that I had, was to do a mechanic called Salvage, where basically once an artifact, creature, or vehicle dies, you can salvage it from the graveyard to get a piece of it back, and that piece can be used to augment your existing creatures and vehicles. So what the salvage is you pay the salvage cost, you return it transformed, and you get to attach it to one of your things. The cards that they transform into are a new artifact type called enhancements. Enhancements were made because equipments can't equip non-creature vehicles, and we wanted to have that space open. So that way, if a vehicle dies and you get a part of a vehicle, it only make natural sense that you should be able to put it on vehicles again, or you could, augment it as a weapon. Somebody could take a combustion engine and suit up their truck, or somebody could take a combustion engine and make a pretty sweet hammer out of it, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So just kind of a simple example card there. It's definitely a little bit of text, but I think this plays into the same sort of space as Disturb. It's kind of the closest thing the mechanics riffing on. And then lastly, as a way to get cards into the graveyard from places other than the battlefield, it was proposed, I believe, by Ninjugo to bring the Jumpstart mechanic back from Guilds of Ravnica, which Jumpstart is you can cast the card from your graveyard by discarding the card in addition to paying its other cost and exile it. So just a reprint example would be a radical idea, and that kind of leans into more of the inventive and possibly optimistic nature of the plane, while also in of itself being a graveyard mechanic for relevant effects, and being able to pitch cards to your graveyard so you can use them as a resource later. I think that's pretty much everything with that pitch.
Yeah, looks like it. But yeah, feels like a pretty pretty thought out pitch. Sorry,
I think we got some good development on it. But consider this one just a pitch from the server.
Right. Yeah. I figured. Yeah, it seemed like enough people had worked on it, and
yeah, I think we had like 5 or 6 in the chat. I know Smelly wasn't able to make the chat, but gave us a decent amount of ideas. I believe Smelly was the one who proposed Outlast. I don't remember who proposed Persist.
All right. Well, then, thank you to everyone who was involved.
It looks like Tuxel is ready.
Okay.
Well, I'll let them have the floor.
Yeah, and that'll be our last pitch for the night, unless there's somebody else around that I don't know about. But you probably should have spoken up by now if you haven't, so... Alright, so Tuxel, do you want to jump in voice chat? Do you want to... Oh, hold on, I have a message from you with the pitch file. Ooh. Well, when I start with Moorbacher art, that's a good start. All right. Okay, I'm not seeing Tuxel in the voice chat, so I'm just gonna read. So, Kolthir, the Brother World. The set has been a work of mine during my time on Cardsmith, but it never became a full set. Based loosely on the art of Peter Moorbacher's Angelarium project, the humanoid races of this plane are a lower class struggling against the oligarchic government formed by the Oster. The Oster are angelic avatar beings born from the plane's true name magic, who are more intelligent, more magically powerful, and more physically strong than humans, giving the Oster the belief that they are deserving of their place as the dominant race of the plane. However, the governments of Kolthir, as controlled by the Oster, are slowly being set up for a perfect storm, ready to plunge the plane into chaos and revolution. Kolthir is covered mainly in beautiful forests, bleak rocky gorges near stormy seas, stretching pastures, and various other landscapes familiar to Europe with a dreary fantasy coating. The forests in which humanoids perform their tag teams are idyllic and beautiful, a respite far from the bustle of the cities of the Oster. The peninsula of Lomar houses the majority for the humanoid population of the plane, where they can safely perform their tag team and govern themselves, only adhering to Oster regulations from afar. And yet there's a danger that looms even in the peaceful forest in the form of Blixhood. More on that later. Alright, mechanics. Conduit. When you cast your first conduit spell each game, choose a conduit color for the rest of the game. So that feels kind of like the prismatic from Jumpstrat. Except that one you choose before you start the game. Dreamwalk can't be blocked by untapped creatures. Tapped creatures can block it. Put a stun counter on each creature that does. Okay. Yeah, this sounds vaguely familiar. I think I've seen some cards from that set. Luthier. To Luthier, create a colorless instrument artifact token with a lore counter on it. It has tap, remove a lore counter from this, remove a counter from target permanent, or add another of a kind already there. Interesting.
Okay, hi guys, I'm
Oh,
here.
Hey, you made it.
Sorry, I had some tech issues. Yeah, I'm in voice chat now though.
Hey, nice. Sorry, I started without you, but I'm on the mechanics.
That is
now.
fair. Yeah, okay. The pitch is pretty long, so if you want to skip the mechanics or save that for the end, you totally can. But these are just some rough sketches. I should preface this with the fact that this is probably going to be a multi-set project for me on my own, but the idea here is that we could create a strata set that is set on the plane of Clothier, and this is kind of the down low for the setting, just so that we could create a new set that takes place on this plane with these events going on.
All right. I do have one question. Are there secretly a bunch of cults here?
I didn't think of that contraction. I I guess there's some occult stuff on this plane,
Okay.
but it's nothing particularly generic fantasy worshiping a craven god type thing. There aren't gods on this plane or anything.
So I've had an idea for like a D&D campaign that I really want to do if I ever run another campaign, which is I want to have my players get like tasked to bring down a cult, right? And then when they get there, they find out that it's not a fantasy cult. It's a real world cult where they're just like indoctrinating like wealthy people to like steal their money. I don't know. Sorry, that's an aside.
Yeah, you're good.
All right. So, do you want to go over the mechanics, or keep
We
on
can.
the floor?
They're pretty basic. I think we should skim over them.
Okay. So, yeah, let's look at tag along because that was mentioned a couple times in the lore. Whenever you attack, you may put this onto the battlefield tapped and attacking for its tag along cost. Okay, so kind of like ninjutsu, but you're not replacing a creature; you're adding a new one.
Yeah, that was the idea. This could also be made more mechanically to be like ninjutsu. The idea was it would be kind of a redux of ninjutsu, but with more generic flavor, as the WotC design team had stated before that they wanted to do.
Right.
Or it can be more mechanically different, depending on what the server wants. That one's still up in the air.
Okay. Well, it seems like an interesting mechanic, so I'd be definitely down to try that out. Okay. So the focus then is on the lore of the play, not on the mechanical implementation.
Yeah.
Okay.
Planeswalkers, real quick. The Strata Walker that would work well for this plane is Davriel, and I actually had the idea for him to be on this plane before I joined the Strata community.
Mm-hmm.
He would be a little bit of a Planeswalker savior who comes to the plane amidst some of the political chaos that ensues, and he would be trying to make sense of all of the political chaos. So he'd be going back into his days of writing up contracts, but this time instead it would be focused on him combating the political disarray that the Astur people have created.
Okay. Interesting. So did you have a particular story in mind for what would happen during this set?
Yes, there is lots. It's the rest of the document.
Oh, okay, cool.
Well, I didn't have a particular story in mind for what our community set would necessarily be, but there's the main storyline of Kolthir, which is the plane getting plunged into political chaos, with all 5 of the set's monocolored factions having different things that set up this perfect storm for them.
Okay. So is there somewhere in particular I should start? Do you just want to go with the Oster, or...
Yeah,
Oh,
so
geez, yeah. So this is 27 pages. Although to be fair, a lot of it is Peter Moorbacher art.
yeah. Um, the whole thing that made me think that this could be good to pitch for Strata is that the art is going to be really easy to find. It's mostly just all of the stuff Peter Moorbacher's done that isn't on Magic cards already. But there is some other art on this document from a few other artists,
Mm-hmm.
mainly for the humanoid populace.
Okay. Let me see if I can find some. This one could be different. It's not. Doesn't look exactly like Moorbacher's art, but
Nah, so if you go past the five factions
okay.
on the section that's titled humanoids, and then there's another one that's the Blixes.
Okay, there's humanoids.
Yeah, those two. Those are arts not from. Well, one of those two is
Oh, I
on
was
the
gonna say this one
humans
looks
is a
awesome,
Peter
but
Moorbacher.
it says Moorbacher, so
Yeah,
here we go.
and then the latter two of the Blix ones aren't Peter Moorbacher. Blixes are probably the main villain of the set, and they're a green aligned faction. They're hippie vampires, is how I like to describe them. They became so druidic into this kind of strange facet of it that they created this hive mind that granted them powers and a strange form of undeath, to where when someone is killed by a Blix, kind of this plant energy revives them into the hive mind, and they themselves become a Blix with the ability to spread this. And people who are reborn as Blixes find it, they're happy, they're powerful, and some people believe that Blixes are actually the key to overthrowing the power that is the Austur, oppressing the humanoids of the plane.
Okay, that's an interesting concept. So are they really the
So-
villains, or is it the Oster? I mean, they're the people who started the oppression to begin with, right?
Well, that's the whole thing. I mean, this set at the core is about political and cultural kind of oppression, revolution. You can think of it as kind of like revolutionary France. Um, there's so much tension stirring that you don't really know who's necessarily the villain, but the Astur are probably set up as the faction who's most like the villain. Sorry, the Blixes are, because the Astur have created this world, and it is kind of authoritarian under their reign, but it's still kind of their world nonetheless. So the Blixes are labeled as the villains of it.
Hmm. Okay, that's just what the man wants you to think.
Yeah.
Okay.
So if we want and if we have time, we could go over the five factions and kind of the story threads for each of them. They're all very emblematic of the colors that they're in, and I think it could be fun to do. This would very much be like a monocolored set. That would be the main mechanical integrity of it. Though I actually have no idea what the set archetypes for a draft set of this would look like. I had the idea for blue-red soul bond, but I don't know if that would stick. And it totally depends. It can be whatever people want. I could see madness coming back. I could see a variety of things. There's obviously some counter stuff in here. Sagas are kind of important. Everybody who pitched tonight has pitched sagas. This is no exception. I also, on my days designing on Cardsmith, came up with the idea of creatures that are also sagas.
Mm-hmm.
And so, similar to Jackal's pitch for that, I have ideas for that here. As well as Ara sagas. Dude, I always say that wrong. The idea of an Ara that you enchant your creature with goes through steps and puts like counters and gives temporary benefits to the creature that is enchanting.
Mm. Gotcha. Okay, so is that what Luthier is meant to complement?
Yeah, well, Luthier just helps with sagas in general.
Mm-hmm.
It's like Luthier is like investigate, but I needed to make it an action keyword so that it could put a counter on the thing so that it's a one-time use of adding or removing a counter to another thing. But you can proliferate to make your instrument tokens, stack up and be able to perform more, which is what that's supposed to represent, the adding or removing counters from things. Music is a big part of the culture for mainly humanoids, so they're going to be the main ones creating instrument tokens. Tagalong is also meant for the humanoids of the world because they go on these tag teams, which are these expeditions through the forests of Kulthir, and it's how humanoids are able to make a place in the economy, because obviously true name magic is what the whole plane is about, and the Astur are attempting to study artifacts to uncover more about it and the powers held within them for true name magic.
Mm-hmm.
And the humanoids go off and they get these relics on these expeditions called tag teams, and they sell them, and that's how the wealth comes to the residents of the Lomar Peninsula, which is the place where pretty much all the humanoids are confined to.
Okay. Got it. So, so then mainly this is a top-down plane, where if you were to summarize the flavor of the world in a sentence, how would you call that? What would you say?
The Astur are oppressive, higher beings believing themselves better than humans, and Blixes are rising to challenge that question, as well as other political disarrays coming up into different monocolored factions, leading to a perfect storm.
All right. Thank you. I've got that added to the Strata community info document, in which I've added a tab for the set pitches. Anybody else have any questions about Kulthir before we finish up with that, and then we'll probably do just a review of all of the set pitches, just so everybody knows, can remember what each one is.
I will also say I can leave a link to this document in case people want to read through some more of the information on the different factions that I have.
Great. Yeah, that's a good idea. Anybody who wants to can definitely also make their documents, associated documents, public if you have some, just so people can look at it and remind themselves what exactly is involved. All right. Well, thank you very much, Tuxel.
Of course.
I guess I think that's everybody done pitching, so I will just pull back up that sheet, and we can remind ourselves what all the pitches look like. Okay. So feel free to edit your own pitch to summarize shortly what it is that your world is about, if you would, or what your pitch is about, I suppose. I will add some categories, plain set name, top down or bottom up. Just tell us which one, and then a pitch summary. And then I guess walkers, if you have included particular walkers into your story. Make sure to list them there. All right. So let me go back to chat. Ron Schmidt asks, "Are the cards edible?" I do not work for Wizards of the Coast, so I don't have to tell you that our lawyer says not to eat the delicious cards. I think you should do what you want. Let's see. Sorcerer says, "How are we doing voting? Obviously, I think we give some time to vote, but I'm curious what the process should be." So, yeah, I've been thinking about this because I've been trying to plan out what we're going to do each week when we're working on the core set. Not the core set, on the premiere set that we go with. And I've been trying to figure out like what's the most efficient way to do it, because we want to do most of the work off stream and just like solve specific issues the set is having on stream, I think is the goal, or at least brainstorm ideas on stream. I've been trying to figure out how, like, if we decide on something. So for example, one of the first topics for a week is going to be mechanics. All right, and then we'll vote on which mechanics we want, and then the next week we'll do archetypes. What are our 10 archetypes going to be? Well, what's the turnaround time on that? Like, do we need a week for voting? And then, but once we have decided what our mechanics are going to be, you're going to need a week, or at least some time to come up with archetypes. So that would be 2 weeks. So I don't feel like we need to leave all polls open for a full week. I'd say like we could leave them open for a day after stream. And then once we have the answers, I'll post that the next day. And then you'll still have 6 days left to like come up with your ideas based on that for the next week. That said, that is not a problem here, because next week we are not working on the premiere set. Next week we are doing the Boo Cube, which is very exciting. So we do have a full 2 weeks. So yeah, we can do a full week for voting this week, and then next week after we're done with Boo Cube, we can release like what is the winner. And in order to maybe keep that a little bit of surprise and for better voting options, I think what we did previously was like a ranked voting system online, like a website where you can put in all of the options in order what you want. And so I'll get all that data, and then I will reveal it on stream next week, if that sounds okay. So in that case, I'll be putting up a link to that vote tonight in the Discord. Najuga says, "I suggested for Delmond, the set should be called Delmond at World's End." No. The set name should be The Allpocalypse. Think about it. Yes, on that note, do not forget about Boo Cube submissions. Sorry, I goofed this up earlier. This should come back here. We have reset. There we go. That was so big. Yes, next week we are doing the Boo Cube. So if you don't have your submissions in, I believe Sorcerers is asking for them by the day before, the 12th. Yeah, that's 6 days from now. So next Monday, have your submissions in. Mine are finished, so I still need to send them to Sorcerers, and I'm writing up my Morrow style spoiler now. So I'm really excited. Let's see. Yeah, you're good, Jackal. I mean, I usually allow swearing as long as it's not like actually directed at somebody. I actually misread that, and I thought it was directed at me, which I was perfectly fine with. So, because I thought it was a joke. Let's see. Najugo says things like set pitches and draft archetypes are bigger decisions than who gets this subset of common slots and should take commensurately longer. Yeah. That's fair, but I also don't want to be like taking, 2 weeks to make any progress on anything in the set. So with all of these, it's just we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. But yeah, I do want to make sure both that they're getting enough like time, but also that we're keeping things moving along. Because in the past, we've never like finished a set on time. Now I feel like we do have the capability to do that, both because I know better how to run a set design, and everybody, I think, I think we just have more people interested in helping in general anyway. So I think it should go faster. But yeah, I don't want to waste any time. All right. So to summarize the pitches, we have Almora, which is the one about the single, lonely, insane person on a barren world who is able to abduct people from other planes, bring them to Almora in order to reenact the stories from IRL Earth. So a lot of focus on movies and stuff. Thank you to everyone who is improving this document over what I just threw together. Next, we have the 5 Dreams, that one was by Ether, which is the one about the mad scientist who's creating an army of robots, and in order to stop him, the 5 grand mages, or great mages, I forget, cast this massive spell that stops him, but also splits the world into 5 different parts called dreams. So maybe a faction set, but the focus is on the 5 worlds and how they are now coming together. Next we have we have Lucrum, which is Home of the Dungeon, the sort of dungeoneering type set. So stop it. Sorry, my phone's acting up. So the dungeon plane, there was a lot of lore there, but not much particular story. So I guess it was something about like a dragon in the dungeon, and a planeswalker who wants to go in and murder that dragon, and maybe Bladeheart's there too. We've got Lavrask, which didn't have a ton of story, but it's a top-down Eldrazi set where basically there's a new Eldrazi Titan in town. Just some assembly required. We've got Lantaris, which is Rain's home plane, and it's sort of about the like surface world starting to come into the merfolk's underwater world in order to attack and loot. We have Delmond at World's End, which is the Allpocalypse. Every single apocalypse you can imagine is happening to this plane. It's doomed, but they have not given up hope. We've got Uvarin, which is the enchantment pitch by Jackal, with like StarCraft. If you have 3 or more enchantments, stuff happens. It could have enchantment creatures, saga creatures, masks, things like that. Also would have rain in it. We've got the Typal set suggested by me, which there's really not a lot to go on there except the basic concept. We do 5 class types, we do 5 race types, we shift them so they're all allied or all enemy, just so that I don't know, just an interesting way to do a Typal set that I think would work pretty well. We've got Wildbriar by Sorcerers, which is all about Bramblebark's origin, basically how he's creating his ideal world made of dreams, and then Ashiok comes in and ruins it. No, not the Alpocalypse. I love Weird Al, but like, I don't think he belongs in Magic. And then we've got Dragazon, which is the one that the Mad Max style world that was sort of pitched by the server as a whole. And lastly, Kulthir, which is Tuxel's world based on Peter Mormbacher's Angelarium artwork. If I misrepresented anything, definitely feel free to make sure to put whatever I missed or messed up into this document so that everybody can read that. I will start an online vote, which I will post a link for later tonight. So I guess with that said, is there anything else anyone wants to talk about regarding all this stuff? The pitches? Or is there anything you guys want to talk about in general? Yeah? Alpaca lips? Yeah. I prefer Llamageddon. Oh, you're good, Tuxel. Oh, yes. Zid, as you all may have noticed, but Zid has posted the Skeletons in My Closet 3 skeleton. So if you are planning to participate in that, sadly, I just don't have the mental energy to do so. But let's take a look at the document. Okay, looks like I don't get to take a look at the skeleton just yet. It's the usual start for all skeletons in my closet. Oh, wait, maybe it is in here. Anyhow, let me. Whoops, this is not even pulled up where you guys can read it. Sorcerer says, I think this is a great batch of pitches. The quality standard has gone way up from last time. Yeah, we definitely have some very solid options that I would be happy to do. So I'm looking forward to whatever we end up on. Tuxel says, Llama's not a legal creature type despite being printed on a card in LCI. It's on Restless Prairie, but WotC forgot to add the existence of that creature type to the rules, so it doesn't exist. And they didn't update that with Murders at Karlov Manor, because even if they just update the rule set every set release, they just had a new one, they could fix it. Sorcerer says, Andrew, what are your favorites? You are project lead after all. Well, I feel like giving my favorites would be maybe unfairly benefiting the ones that I like. I don't know. I feel compelled not to share that, my particular thoughts. I also don't want anyone to feel like I don't like their pitches. So, yeah, I think I'll withhold my thoughts. And that'll be another reason to do sort of secret voting, just so nobody gets their feelings hurt if their vote, if theirs doesn't get as many votes as they want. Reardon says Fog World snubbed, maybe 2025. Well, look, my world is bottom up. Okay, so we could put a lot of fogs in there. Like, it's a typal set, but that doesn't mean there can't be fogs mechanically or flavorfully. It's a lot of space. I left mine very open for that reason. Meriden says, Andrew, what are your least favorites? Look, man, these things do not go bad. And we still have a bunch in our basement from December. And I find that having hard candy around keeps me from having to cough. See? Yeah, because I got sick on New Year's Eve. Some kind of, 24-hour flu or something. Well, I guess it was a bit longer than that. With some kind of intense cold or flu or something. And I've had a cough ever since. So I've been having a lot of hard candy. Pixel says, are we allowed to vote for our own set? Just checking because if it's anonymous voting, I'm not sure how we'd check that. Absolutely you are. If you like your pitch the best, put it at number 1. So we're going to be, I think I used a website before where we can do ranked choice voting. So you take all the options and you rank them all. And so number 1 will get the most points. Number 2 will get the next most points. Number 3 will get the next most points. And then it'll sort of, so that way you're not just voting for one, which can be a weird way of doing it. Also, we have a request to have the VOD posted for this stream. I guess that makes sense, so people can listen to the pitches as they happened. But yes, absolutely vote for your own set if you like your own set idea. I'll tell you that. I do like my own set submission, because if I didn't, I would not have pitched it. So, there you go. You know I like that one. Okay, so, well, we got about 5 minutes left. Is there anything else anyone wants to do or talk about? Or, we were talking a little bit about pre-release experiences at the start of stream. So we could, if anyone wasn't here for that discussion, we could talk a bit more about the Murders at Karlov Manor pre-release. Sorcerer says we should draft. Well, I do like drafting, but my girlfriend might want to hang out after stream. I don't know. She drafts with us. I'm trying to get her into Magic, at least enough that she will play with me on occasion. And my secret strategy is to build a Rin and Seri commander deck. It's been in the works for a while. A long while. Long before they made a Secret Lair version of the deck. So, whatever. I don't need it. I am introducing her with green and red and white. So, Tuxel says, you don't think it would work better if people didn't vote for their own, so the ranking is purely for the pitches of others? I don't think so. I think it's about I don't know. I feel like it works fine. I want the set that everybody will be most happy to draft. And like, if everybody does rank their own set, their own pitch the highest, then it's kind of like you've taken that out anyway, because every set will have the same boost in points. So, I don't know. I think it'll work itself out. I just want to make sure that everybody's going to be happy designing the set that we end up designing. And if you're going to be happy with your own pitch, then great. It's fine with me. Yeah, I mean, if it were just like regular voting, everybody would just get, and everybody just got one vote. Yeah, and everybody voted for their own. It's like, cool, everything gets one vote. But with this, you actually have to rank everything. So, what do you like most? What do you like next most? What do you like next most? Etc. So that is where some of the, tiebreakers would come in. Tuxel says, maybe I just don't want to have to rank my set next to the others, lol. Look, you don't have to overthink it either. Like, you can just default to putting yours at the top if you feel like that's, if that's the easiest. So you don't have to try and face the hard truth that your pitch isn't as good as the other ones. Thank you, everybody who is helping fill this document out. So Sorcerer says, anyway, one last recap. Vote for pitches starting tomorrow-ish. BooCube next stream, submit by Monday. And SIMC 3 is coming soon. Yes, that seems to be about right. Yeah, that about covers it. Also, Mirrodin has been doing a lot of work. Sorry I didn't respond to your message yet, Mirrodin. But Mirrodin has been doing a ton of work with making sure Jump Strat is all cleaned up and pretty and ready to go. Granted, they've just been working on the look, the flavor text, the art, the names, etc. Making sure everything's looking clean and tidy, no typos. They haven't been working on mechanics, so I'll need to tidy up, like, if some of the cards are not quite, if there's issues. But they're getting pretty ready to go. And this month, we are going to have an EDH tournament. Last month we had Standard. This month we're going to have Commander. So feel free to start building Commander decks. What is available is everything from our Standard, as well as everything from our Jump Strat, as well as our signature Legends. And I don't know. I feel like maybe the pre-cons are not ready now because the sets that they come from have changed, so some of their cards have changed. So I'm not sure if the pre-cons will be ready, but everything else, good to go. I will get the Jump Strat cards reposted also this week so that you can start building with them. I just blanked. When is EDH? I did not say what day it was. Let's go look. So this week was the premiere set pitches. Next week is the Boo Cube. Week after that, we start the premiere set. Okay, so the tournaments, the Commander tournament stream is not till the 27th. So it's still 3 weeks away. So plenty of time to build the deck. Jordan says, fun fact, of the 1,000 plus cards in Jump Strat, there's like less than 10 duplicates. The fact would be more fun if I had an exact number. Yeah, I remember one of mine from the Bladeheart pack, which is like Horn of Legends or something. It's like you can tap legendary creatures to add mana. I remember that got duplicated. Like somebody else also included that in their pack. But yeah, that's not bad. I would like to get it down to 0 duplicates aside from lands. But we can work on that. And I don't know if it's that important or if I just like the aesthetic. Hey, McMoose. Pitches went pretty well. We got, I think, 11 in total. We're going to open up votes either tonight or tomorrow. So, unless anybody else has anything to mention, talk about, we can probably call it a stream. Pretty well. Sorry, I'm a very reserved person, generally. So, I don't tend to be very exclamatory. Yes, things went excellent. It was the best it's ever been. This is my favorite stream I've ever done. I am so pumped. Let's get this bread. Is that better? What is my favorite stream? Honestly, a few weeks ago when we did Standard for the first time, that was pretty great. Let me see. The Planning the Year stream, actually, was one of the better ones. January 9th. Just because, like, once we had this schedule down, I felt so much more confident about us as a group being able to complete the tasks that we want to do. And the Boo Cube was starting, and that was exciting. And so, honestly, probably January 9th was one of my favorites so far, ever. And yeah. Have a good night, everyone who's getting off. I guess I'm probably going to shut down the stream here as well. So, thank you everybody who pitched. Mechmoose, Ether, Mars, Najugo, Mirrodin, Pixel, Jackal, myself, Sorcerers, Tuxel, and everyone who was involved in Dragazon. Thank you for your pitches. I look forward to seeing which of these wins out. And yeah, have a great night or whenever it is, wherever you are. And I hope to see you next week when we come back for the Boo Cube, which is probably going to make the list of my top 5 streams ever. So, yeah,